Ah, it's time to address the PC part picker warrior claims. This is the one that I've actually been waiting for a long time, because whenever you're trying to draw an argument based on practicality, one of the best things you can do is to ensure that you yourself can actually walk the walk and not just talk the talk. I saw a heckler today on the comment section basically throwing all of these different accusations at me, saying, it's one thing to build these so-called PlayStation 5 Pros on paper. However, when it comes down to actually building it, why don't I go build it and show people what the PC actually does? This is good. This is exactly what we need to do. We need to start taking on a higher level of accountability when people make claims that they actually can back up their claims. Isn't that the case? To continue to back this up, I've seen some influencers on Twitter continue to post a data scientist and a techie, Lee Hampton is the name, and his comments on the comparison videos and the influencer talk. He has a very long post here, but I want to go ahead and I want to actually highlight a few things. So please, I beg you, bear with me. If you're listening, or if you're driving, put your headphones or your earphones on, and let's go through some of the comments here. There's a lot of context, and I may not read everything, so I say please go and find the tweet and read it. The first paragraph is of tantamount importance here, so let's go what he says. He says, for the vast majority of the discourse, these influencers are not actually telling you to go buy a PC. They're telling you not to buy a PS5 Pro, but many of them do not have the ability to construct a cogent argument on its own merits. Mr. Hampton, I think that's your opinion, but again, I'm just reading what you said. And so this comparison is developed into a running narrative and trope. I have no problem telling people not to buy a PS5 Pro. I'm not upgrading right now, but I'm also not the target consumer who has to make the choice between buying a PS5 Pro and building a PC. What I'm saying is that this consumer, the one who has to make this choice, doesn't exist. How do you know, sir? Okay, the entire premise is false. This has been a con, a fabrication of an argument, and the wrestlers are now trying not to break kayfabe. Or kayfabe, or whatever it is. I don't know, sir, because you've drawn a conclusion from your desk like other people drew conclusions from their desks. Because I can tell you that on my YouTube channel, in the comment section, I see people asking me, hey, how am I going to build a PC that's going to be able to do this? Because I don't know if I want to pay for this at this point. Some of these folk like to get new hardware whenever they come out. So again, I think you can say the influencers are doing one thing, but have you looked through the body of interaction that they have in some cases with some of the people who may be asking them questions? That's a very critical point that must be addressed, sir. And then he continues in the second paragraph. He says, one thing you should do if you're trying to be an informed consumer is you check the influencer's credibility. I want you to ask the ones telling you to build a $700 PC if that's what they're running. Guys, this is the one that I wanted to do. So what I decided to do was I decided to show you guys a video that I made a few weeks ago with this $700 PC. I actually showed the components and everything, but I decided to scrap the video because for some reason, I think I had a lot of other topics that I was actually dealing with. And so I decided to put the whole build thing aside. In fact, here is an image, a shot of that particular PC right there in the corner section of my living room with the Kleenex that the kids use whenever they have a cold, some of the stickers that the kids decided to put on the case because that's just a normal device that's in the house and it's connected and hooked up to my TV. And that's where I do majority of my gaming. In fact, I've been doing majority of my gaming on this build when it was actually a little bit, more or less OP than what it is now, because I wanted to ensure that I was not just telling you to go build a PC, but I was running the PC that I wanted you to go build. And I played 30 FPS games too on my console. Remember when I told y'all about Gotham Knights? Do you guys remember? And I said, guys, I play Gotham Knights and actually think it's a good game. And some of you say, well, you play on PC. Why don't you play on console? And I was like, I just beat it on console. I played the game at launch. The very first time I picked up Gotham Knights, one of my most played games since 2022 when it came out, was 30 FPS using the New Zealand method where, Xbox will let you and you can play the game a little earlier than everybody else. And that's how I dived into the game. That's how I jived with the game. And so again, you have to walk the walk because people can accuse you of being a fugazi, a phony, if you don't have the credibility. And so that's exactly what it is that I'm actually pointing out here. Now, yes, maybe the influencers don't want to play on those devices because honestly, why would they have to when they have access to a better audience? They have better funding. They have more than likely, gifts that people give them that give them better hardware. But at the end of the day, they could run it because, to be very honest, many of them have been making PC builds and talking about these things for many years. And for most of them, playing on these builds are not necessarily a problem. And so it says, as their primary gaming PC, yes, my 6750 XT $650 component-based build, you can maybe say it's closer to 700 because I use the different power supply, but that's about it. But you can use a power supply that will cost you less, is my daily driver. I put an extra 2 terabyte hard drive in there and I installed basically almost all the games that I think from my backlog that I want to play, including the games that I play very frequently and the games that I actually play in, say, couch co-op with the kids. That's it. If I want to play it in my office, I actually unplug my, power cable, my HDMI cable, and I bring it into my office. I plug it into a monitor and I game, except maybe it's convenient for me when I'm working to just maybe fire up a video game from time to time. And I think this is the most important thing. Because again, the people who are harping on these particular paradigms, like the commenter who was heckling on my channel, and even this gentleman, and I'm sure they're respectable in their field, is that they want to now test credibility on scientific measures. That's parts and components that you can see clearly are better than the PS5 Pro. But now it seems like the assertion is to move the standard a little bit to a higher standard. And even at that higher standard, those who are proposing this meet that standard. So what's going to be the next standard? If those builds they recommend to their actual customers, to friends, to families, because I don't, okay. Again, you cannot subject everybody to your experience. This is what we're talking about because again, I don't know if you guys realize, like clockwork, before this PS5 console was actually released, I said in a comment to somebody was saying, dude, this channel is just attacking Sony, blah, blah, blah. I said, no, I'm not attacking anybody. I'm just pointing out what is. And I was talking about stuff. And at the end of this comment thread, you can see it for yourself. I said to these guys, I said, I'm not bashing the industry. I said, what you're going to see is when the PlayStation 5 Pro is revealed, I'm going to get dragged by either PlayStation fans or even PC fans. I said that like 20 minutes before they revealed the PlayStation 5 Pro. Because I knew that these things were going to come up. I've not only been studying the console market and also the console gamers' behavior, but I've also been in tune with the PC gamers' behavior as well. There are different factions. There are different people with different thought processes. Not saying one is right nor one is wrong. But again, I hope you guys are seeing this. And this is a pattern that continues over and over again. Right? So let's finish this second paragraph, or maybe we might make it all the way to the end. And they said, because I don't, my brother-in-law recently asked what kind of gaming laptop, what kind of gaming laptop his kid, who'd saved up 150, should get. I told him to get a Fire Stick, an Xbox controller, and sign up for Game Pass Ultimate, and then keep saving. Now, this is his brother-in-law. This is his own advice. If they had asked me for $150 what kind of gaming PC they could have gotten, I have what I could have shown them to be able to be a sustainable build that a kid can actually use. Why? I have kids too, and those kids game on PC. At first, I used to buy them cheap old consoles. I bought them a PS3. I bought them an Xbox 360 to kind of get them started. I got them a Nintendo Switch. But eventually, I started to see these consoles lock you in here. They want to upsell you. You don't have a lot of freedom. So I decided to go the gaming PC route for them. And from old components, old parts, old laptops, and such, there are games that can be leveraged even at that price point for little kids. I cannot recommend a little kid go buy a $700 device. I cannot do that. But at the end of the day, if this person doesn't believe that there's a way to be able to get things going from the ground up, then that's their own belief system. However, there's always a way. Remember, guys, the old desktop kits and the old GPUs where you could go and buy the old, the good old Dells and HPs or the good old Lenovo workstations. They sell them on eBay for $80. And you can buy a GPU and actually attach it, and it's going to play Minecraft. It's going to play all these kiddie games. You know what's crazy, folks? Many of you know who Doc Dark is. Doc recently bought a Walmart gaming PC. I'm a school teacher. I teach middle schoolers. One of my middle schoolers, not even in the highest level of middle school, in one of the lower levels of middle school, 6th, 7th, 8th, choose one from 6th and 7th. They came to me and said, my dad bought me a gaming PC. I'm having a problem running this game. I said to him, let me see the specs. Doc, it was the same gaming PC that you bought for $800. This kid's parents bought him an $800 computer. What was he playing? He was playing some of these games that are like Minecraft level graphics on there. And I'm thinking, bro, this game could be running freaking, but he's a kid. He can't play those kinds of games. And so I said, okay, here's what you need to do. Close some tabs, do some of these things. This game might not really have too much optimization. You might be suffering from, DirectX and all that stuff. He went home, he did it. He told me, he came back, he said it worked. It's just a lot of information. This is a little kid. Not expecting him to build a PC, but to say that, $150 and then they should need to go buy a Fire Stick and subscribe to Game Pass Ultimate. I mean, is that the only option that you could give? Maybe that's the only option you could give, sir. But again, I think this is another case of us basically trying to juxtapose our experience on everybody else or ask everybody else for their experience as a measure of the new standard. Some of them might say this is how they got started. They flipped burgers for a summer and built a starter box less than $1,000 with a good friend who had experience building, overseeing their work. No, it was YouTube, but I guarantee you they never build or buy something like that now. Well, yes, why would they need to? Why would they need to? So at the end of the day, I think this is a PC gamer who has probably reached the point where they can now afford any gaming PC component they want. And now they cannot recommend for anybody, even though in the past they enjoyed the benefits of affordable components, even though it was in the mid-range, even though it was not in the high range. And they think that everybody else is going to somehow suffer a weakened experience when the experience that they were on was the console in the first place. That was a much less better experience than the PC that we're all recommending. They want you to say, go buy a console where you're going to spend more money on subscription. You're going to spend more money on the cost of games, which is in turn going to cost more in the long run at the end of the day. It's like saying anybody who tells you to pay off your house early is doing something wrong. When if you pay off your house early, you save way more on interest cost. These folk are basically trying to put you in a position where you go spend a bunch of money on the long term rather than, basically spend less on the short term, because the cost on the short term, when compared to just the console itself at face value, looks like, oh, the PC is more money. Whereas on the back end, it's insane. Man, I don't know how people handle their finances and I don't care. But at the end of the day, man, it's very interesting to see how even some folk on the PC side are justifying that you should buy a console because the influencers that are actually using PC Part Picker are not actually playing those, on those PCs. In my case, I am. But, I just still think it's a very interesting standard to set at this point. Why would you actually bring that standard to play when on the PC side, that's how we've all actually, researched and found out what components actually work for us. The influencers have basically given us the benchmarks and we went and made the decision to purchase those parts. We never told the influencers and said, hey, Hardware Unboxed, why would you say that this CPU is better? Are you using it? Instead, what we said was, this CPU you say is better because it's better than this other CPU and this other CPU based on these games. Again, we're not letting the scientific enterprise take charge in these conversations. Instead, people want to prioritize how they feel, including even PC gamers these days, about these conversations. Oh man, I think this is very interesting. Shout out to Sarhampton. I mean, these are my opinions on your opinions. I'm not attacking you. I'm just ensuring that I, clarify that I think if we took a very close look, it seems like there are just a few things that we can find, in a sense, somewhat placed or positioned differently in your opinion that will be different from other people's opinions at the end of the day. And also other people's experiences. But in the objective side of things, I think we need to take a very good look at how we have this conversation and how we continue to have it. Thanks for watching the video. Peace out.